Today, I want to talk to you about a subject matter that's a little bit heavy. If you watch videos on this channel, then you know that I usually talk about buying and selling real estate in the greater Tampa area, living in Florida. I tour neighborhoods. I talk about amenities and incentives, builder specials. But today's topic is about what to do with your aging parents' home. Come on, let's go. If you are around my age in your late 40s, mid 50s, then maybe you are going through some of the same things that I recently went through. I have a mom. My dad passed away 20 something years ago, but I have a mom who was living in the house that I went to middle school and high school in, and she was living there by herself. My mom and dad bought that house in the early 80s in Sarasota, which is about an hour and a half south of where I live right now. It's just a very small, modest house. Sarasota sounds so fancy, right? But it's a small, modest home. And after my dad passed away, she continued to live there. The house is paid off, thank goodness. But I noticed in the last few years that it was getting more and more difficult for her to maintain, to live there by herself. She was not driving as much anymore. She needed some help with that, and I was a little bit too far away to give, any type of assistance. And frankly, she could not come and live with me because my house is not set up for her situation physically. And I'm an only child. Basically, I have half siblings, but they were not going to be involved in any of these decisions that needed to be made. And so, your situation could be completely different, but the bones of the situation will be very similar. You have an aging parent, you have a house with contents, and you need to figure out how to help, you know, the mom or dad or both of them, and also what to do with the contents of the home and what to do with the home. So that stuff will stay pretty consistent. All the different scenarios that could come into play, like siblings, people living out of state, all that kind of stuff can get very complex and difficult, I suppose. So maybe you might think, oh, that's so much easier that she had to do it by herself, or got to do it by herself and didn't have to discuss things with people and make decisions with people. And I could see where someone could think that, but I will say it was very daunting for me to be the only decision maker, the only person doing anything with all of it. It was a lot. It was a lot. So I'm going to start with my personal experience from start to finish. I'm not going to do it all in this one video because it's impossible to do. And hopefully I'll be able to share some ideas that might help you if you're going through a very similar situation. So first of all, many years ago, I started talking to my mom about, hey, you should maybe start to consider what you would like to do. What's your next step? Is there a place locally that you would like to go to? Because I thought maybe she would want to stay locally, right? She has friends there. And I didn't want to uproot her from that life that she knew in Sarasota. But she kept saying, no, I want to be up by you. I want to be up by you. I said, well, look at these facilities. I would encourage her to look online. She knew how to look online. She knew how to search online. I would even send her links to places. I said, find some places. Let's make some decisions. We can go look at places. And she never really did that. Never really did that. That was very frustrating to me at the time. But now we, keep moving forward, right? And about 2 years ago, she got out of bed one morning, and she didn't fall and hurt herself or break anything, but she kind of slid down and she couldn't get back up. And she waited a couple of hours before she called me or the neighbor. I said there was no reason to wait. So we called 911. I was an hour and a half away. They went and got her. They took her to a local hospital. And from there, she stayed there for 3 days. She went to a rehab facility, she went to, oh gosh, no, she went to skilled nursing slash rehab right after that for probably about 6 or 7 weeks. And then she went straight into assisted living where she lives now, which is an hour and a half north of Sarasota. So she never went back home, ever. except for to swing by one day and pick out a few clothes. Um, so it was, traumatic for her, I know, but also, the day that she left that house and never really came back, I was now charged with what to do with all the contents of the home and the home itself. And it took me a while to get, you know, into a position where I could figure out what my steps were going to be. And I'm a real estate broker. Um, so it wasn't, about the house at this point. It was about the person and the personal property. Because I couldn't even think about what I was going to do with the house yet. And so what I'm saying to you is, as a professional in real estate, it was difficult for me because really at this point I wasn't in that role. I was in the role of a daughter having to take care of a parent. And the steps that I took, it was a slow go because I had to figure out what it was that she could take to her new place, what would fit in this very small condo. So she went from like a small house, 1,100 square feet ish, to a much smaller, less than 500 square feet studio apartment in assisted living. And so she could not take a lot of stuff. And there were other things that she needed to get that would fit in the studio that she didn't have in her home, like a single bed that had a lift on it or whatever. So there were decisions that needed to be made more immediately, which I did, and got her set up kind of homey. But that took a while because it didn't seem like anything I did made her happy. And those are uh, things that your relationship may be different than my relationship with my mom, but she was unhappy to be there, um, and expressed herself very much so about that. And that was hard for me because I was doing the best as her daughter to make her happy. And nothing I did was seeming to do that. And, we made it pretty, we made it comfortable, we made it nice. And I say we because my kids and my husband helped get the studio set up. And it just wasn't good enough. That's a story for another day. And you may experience that kind of thing. And I hope that you don't. But people do, they have trouble transitioning from a place that they loved to a place that they don't really want to be. So be prepared for that, I guess, is my advice. It could happen to you. Maybe it won't. And not sure, I don't think I mentioned, but it was not an option for her to come and live at my home because my home is not set up for her physical condition. It never really can be, honestly. It's a very, very old home. It has steps everywhere. And that's just not, it's not something that we could even handle because she needed to have hands on help as well. And so once I got her set up, then I had to get into a mindset of now I've got a whole entire house full of stuff. I mean, stuff. And it wasn't a hoarding situation at all. She kept it very nice and tidy, but there were things that were in that home that I remember as a kid in the 70s, um, which, that's nostalgic and everything, but I don't have a need for that kind of furniture. It's not antique, it's not worth anything. It just was their furniture or, it was stuff, a lot of stuff. And I think if you get into the mindset of, what is valuable, what is just stuff, what can be donated to be useful to other people. If you can kind of start to get things in those categories, it will help you move forward. Um, Obviously, photographs and maybe mementos that are meaningful. Those would be kept in the valuable. Let's keep those, or I'm not sure yet. Okay, photos definitely want to keep, right? Because you can't replace those. The furniture part, um, uh, some people will say do an estate sale. And yes, if you have stuff that's valuable enough to do that, you could do that. You could do a garage sale, you could do an estate sale. Some people want to sell stuff on Facebook. In my case, the contents wasn't so much of value. Like I said, a lot of stuff from the 70s was still in the house. I didn't have time to sort things out and do a garage sale. I did not have time to do that. My drive was an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back at least. Traffic to Sarasota can be crazy. And then just the time spent, schlepping everything out, sitting there waiting for somebody to give me a quarter, it's not worth my time. I did try to do some things on Facebook Marketplace, and I think that there are professionals that like to just mess with you on Facebook Marketplace. They will say, "Oh, hey, I'm interested in an item. Oh, yeah, what? Okay, okay." So I put like maybe 3 items up. I was going to be there on a Saturday, and I thought I'll give this a go, see if it goes for some of the bigger things. And they were all like no shows or weirdos. I wouldn't give them the address. I said, forget it. I'm not doing it. But I had some things that I thought maybe Habitat for Humanity would want, for example, and they will come and pick up stuff. I had a whole bedroom, suite of furniture, and they got there and they wouldn't take it all because it was too dated. It wasn't what they would put in one of their homes or put for sale in one of their shops. So we donated a whole lot of stuff to Goodwill, which happened to be around the corner from my mom's house. And I would come with my kids who are older, they're late teens, early 20s, and they would come with me from time to time and they would make little runs to Goodwill. So we'd put stuff in little piles and then somebody would go and schlep that stuff off to Goodwill while I still kept doing that. And I could only do it for about 2 hours at a time. And then I was done. Um, so I did that for a while. And when they did come to take some of the big stuff away, that was very helpful. So that's a pro tip for you. Once you get some of the big things out of the house, it helps you see things in a different light. Now, if you hire an estate company to go through the stuff after you go through the valuables that you want to keep, after you sort through that stuff and take that out of the house, then an estate company can come in, they can organize everything, they can have a sale, and then they take away everything else that doesn't sell and they have a cleaner come in and clean. And that might work for people who live out of state, don't live nearby, don't have the time or to put into doing something like that. That is a really good option for people if you have to clear out the house like that and you don't want to be responsible for it. So I would say that maybe if I had to do over, I might consider something like that. But at the time, I just didn't think it was enough stuff for of value that it would make sense for me. Um, but eventually, I did get the home almost cleared out, but I still had some big things in there. And I was talking to a friend and she said, Allison, I have a horse trailer. I can come down. We can load it up and take that stuff to the dump, no problem. And I said, oh my gosh, well, that would be so great, even though I wasn't looking forward to that. I mean, that was like some serious manual labor, right? And in the meantime, I was having some conversations with a handy person that I use here in the Tampa area that helps me at my home from time to time. And some, I refer to clients. And I said, I was wondering if you might go down to Sarasota. There's some things that are going to need to be fixed before I do whatever it is that I'm going to do to the house, with the house. And he said, yeah, I can do that. And I said, okay, well, I got to get some stuff out of there first. And here's what I'm doing. And he said, don't do that. I can get a trailer. I will get my guys and we will take care of that for you. Hello. So I guess the other thing I want to say is if somebody offers you help like that, or even just ask for help, you will be surprised at who will come to your aid, who will help you. They want to help you. So don't be afraid to ask for help and don't be afraid to accept the help and sort out the things in piles and ask for help and accept the help. So those are great things. Now you might be saying, well, how did you figure out where your mom was going to go live? I'm going to share with you in the description below. I'll share with you a link of a concierge service. What I mean by that is that there are organizations that will help you figure out, based on your parents' needs and location of as to where they want to be, what are some facilities where they can go. And they will give you that list. And there's not a fee for that. They get kind of a finder's fee on the opposite side when the parent decides to live in the place. But there's not a fee to you. At least in my case, there wasn't. But I didn't even need, I started to talk to them a little bit because it was a little frantic at first. But I ended up my mom ended up going to the same facility where my mother and father-in-law decided to live, and they were about 6 months ahead of her in the whole process. And my lovely sister-in-law did a lot of visiting and vetting, and so I felt very comfortable with my mom going there. Plus, she would know some people coming from a whole different city. She would already know a couple of people living there, so it was a good fit for her. And I didn't have to finish up by using that concierge service, but in your area there might be a service like that. So I'll share the link for the people I know, and then if they can't help you, um, then maybe they know of another similar kind of operation that can help you. Okay, so clearing out the personal belongings was probably one of the most stressful things. And you have to give yourself grace, because if you have siblings, maybe you guys will decide everybody's going to come on this day and we're going to pick out what we want to keep and have. I didn't have that, right? Because I don't have siblings like that. Nobody was going to come and pick out what they wanted and take that stuff away. But maybe luckily you have that. So that's what I'm saying, is that you may be in a better situation than I am, because I had to make all the decisions. But then maybe you have like a derelict brother who, just, wants to take stuff and sell it and use money for bad things or something, and you don't want that. So I can imagine that it can be difficult with siblings just as much as it's difficult without. So everybody's going to have a different situation. But give yourself grace, because you don't have to make all of the decisions unless you make yourself make all the decisions. Yes, you have to get the stuff out of the house, but do you have to donate it or junk it? No. In my case, I kept some things that I just wasn't ready to make a decision about, and they're sitting in bins in my garage, right? So I have about 9, 10, 12 bins. I don't even know. I lost count. They're neatly stacked in my garage, and I have to go through them. And I just, once I got through the process of getting everything finally out, and then I had these I'm not sure about things. I had the keeps, which was coming with me anyways, and then I had the I'm not sure about, and I'm just going to bring them back up and deal with it later. I'll get them out of the house. They're still sitting in the garage. My husband's after me about it, but he not really after me, but he's laid off about it, because he knows it's a thing I don't want to deal with yet, and I will get to it at some point. Um, but it's a lot, to do. But I give myself grace. So I made some bad decisions. I donated things that I think I probably should have kept. My mom has given me grief about stuff. I mean, to this day, and it's been almost 2 years. I'll give you two examples. One is I asked her a question that I needed to know about the hurricane shutters on the home. I said, "Do you remember who did those? Who you bought those from?" Because she'll remember things. Her physical ability is not so great, but mentally, she's still got a lot there. And um, she said, "I don't know. It's in that black filing cabinet." I don't say anything. She goes, "The black filing cabinet?" I said, "I know. Well, just go in there and look at that." And I go, "I don't have that black filing cabinet." "What'd you do with it? What'd you do with it?" "Well, I gave away the black filing cabinet. I had to get rid of it." Now, I went through papers and I sorted through what I thought was important. And then there was also stuff from the 70s in there they were not important. And it was not fair for me to keep those items. What am I going to do with that? So, anyways, so that was one thing. And that's 2 years later, because that just recently happened. And there was another thing, um, you know, uh, about some sort of bicycle, a riding bicycle. Now, keep in mind, my mom's not in great physical condition. For her to get on a bicycle, even a stationary bicycle, it would be dangerous. So I'm pretty sure I gave that to Goodwill. She goes, "Hey, do you have that bicycle in the garage?" I was like, "No, Mom, I gave you the one that's on the ground that you can sit in a chair and use." "Well, what'd you do with it?" I'm sure I donate. "Well, you could have gotten $100 for that on Facebook Marketplace." So I'm sharing that with you because those are things that might happen to you. And it's awful when it does, because you've done the best that you can. You think you're making good decisions. You're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but yet, somebody had to leave their home and the stuff in it. And they want to go back and grab that thing that maybe they haven't even touched for years, and now you're the person who got rid of it, right? So be prepared for that. Give yourself grace. I do. I donated things that I probably shouldn't, like a fancy basket from Charleston. They hand weave them. And I was like, I'm not going to use that. I remember getting it as a kid, as a family at the open air marketplace in Charleston, South Carolina, where we lived at the time. And my mom had it out as, a knickknack. And I donated it. And then a couple months later, I went to Charleston with my girls, with my daughters, and we were walking around and we were in the open air market. And they, when they're selling those baskets for like $250, $350 for the small ones. And I was like, oh my gosh. But okay, money's going to come and go. Things are going to come and go, and it's going to be okay. So give yourself the grace. So uh, ask for help, accept help, give yourself grace, put things in piles, try and make things easy for yourself. And I will get to what it is that I decided to do with my mother's home in my next video. And in the meantime, if you have some comments, questions, things that you're going through, maybe things that I can help you with, if you have some specific question about something, please put it in here. I'm helping people right now. Sadly, their mother passed away and they inherited the house, but they all live in different states. And the house is here in the greater Tampa Bay area. And I'm helping to facilitate the sale of that home through the three of those siblings, very simply and easily for them. But they're not here locally to handle any of that. And so I'm happy to help them. And I'm really happy to have had the experience that I've had personally as well, to understand some of the things that they were going through emotionally. So put your comments, your questions down below. Make sure that you like and subscribe so that you don't miss the follow-up videos to this, because this cannot be talked about in one little talking head video. My name's Allison Newland. I'm a real estate broker in the greater Tampa area, and I am the daughter of an aging parent.